Good morning students, this is Vishal Pandey from Green Valley English School. I hope you all are doing well. So today we are going to start a new chapter from your Hornbill book, and the name of the chapter is Landscape of the Soul. Yes, a very interesting chapter but complicated as well. So we have discussed something in the virtual class. Let us move forward to understand the story basically, and it is written by Nathalie Trevorroy. We are going to discuss who is Nathalie Trevorroy as well. If you see about the writer, the author Nathalie Trevorroy is an art historian who came in limelight because of her translated work called City of Genes. So she has written that translated work of art. Basically, she was a lover of art and culture. So she has given the world the translated form of work which is known as City of Genes. It is important just know the name so that whenever it is asked you can give it. A book by William Dalrymple. He has written, William Dalrymple has written originally this book, but it was translated later by as name of City of Genes by Nathalie Trevorroy. So this is the way she has written. She is the wife of Belgian ambassador to India. So she is a wife of a veteran ambassador who was there an ambassador in India. So she has traveled various cities of the world with her husband, because her husband was serving to the foreign services. Her husband was serving to the foreign services. That is why she has moved throughout the globe. She has visited throughout the different cities of the world. She holds a master's degree in history of art and archaeology from University of Belgium. Where is Belgium? It is in Europe. She planned to write her next book on old Delhi architecture like Jama Masjid and Chandni Chowk, because she was there in India along with his her husband. So basically, if you talk about that, his love towards the old buildings and the famous historical buildings, she loves to write a lot. But in this chapter, Landscape of the Soul, if you talk about the landscape of the soul, in this chapter she is going to emphasize more on Chinese civilization as well as European culture, European civilization, both the way of getting interaction, how the painters draw their paintings, and how we as a reader can adopt those story in a realistic way. So let us try to understand that what was the story altogether. Before going to story, let me tell you this, that in this story, Landscape of the Soul, writer has 3 different stories. Basically, he will add writer will add some more stories like Nek Chand. He is from India basically. So basically 4 different stories are there in this chapter, and writer Nathalie Trevorroy has created that various stories in that text, if you see. So if you talk about Landscape of the Soul, it is the story starts from 8th century basically, and it is Wu Daozi, a Chinese painter. Wu Daozi, a Chinese painter, was asked by the Tang Emperor Xuanzong. Now Xuanzong was emperor of China at that time of Tang Kingdom, to paint a landscape to decorate a palace wall. So basically that king was lover of art and paintings and drawings. So what he told Wu Daozi to draw or to create those paintings so that he can fix those paintings to the walls of the palace. The master hid his work behind a screen. So Wu Daozi created that picture, and he was so veteran, he was so experienced, he was so talented that he created very well that picture. He created very beautifully, and what he did, he just hid those pictures behind the screen so that no one can see it except king. Only the emperor could see it. Who can see it? Only the emperor can see it. The emperor admired the wonderful scene. He discovered forests, high mountains, waterfalls, clouds floating in the enormous sky, men on hilly paths, and birds in flight. So as you can see, the different characterization of this, the picture of Wu Daozi has been given, that he has decorated, he has drawn many things like forest, high mountains, waterfalls were there, clouds were there floating in the enormous sky, clouds were floating, men, he drawn some men on the hilly paths, and then birds in flight. So basically king was very much fascinated towards Wu Daozi's painting. Then what happens? Then the painter asked the king respectfully to look in a cave at the foot of the mountain. At that foot of the mountain, Wu Daozi has drawn a cave. Cave उसने draw किया, and what he told the king to look upon, to look at the cave. He said a spirit lived there. What he told? He said, Wu Daozi said to the king that, O king, O Lord, O Almighty, in that cave, if you see, a spirit is there, a soul is there, you know. So a spirit is living there according to, because this is a fiction. It has been created, this story has been created by Nathalie Troveroy. So it is not a realistic one, keep this in your mind. The painter clapped his hands, the entrance to the cave opened. Because there was a spirit in that cave, according to Wu Daozi, so when he clapped, the cave opened, and what happened next? The painter remarked that the cave was very splendid from inside. He offered to show the way to his majesty. The painter entered the cave, but the entrance closed behind him. So whenever you go into lift, if you remember, when you go into lift, you just enter, and then within few seconds the lift closed, you know, it closes. So what exactly happened in this story? When cave opened, when Wu Daozi clapped, the cave opened, and when he entered, the cave got closed and the painting vanished. Painting vanished, and the king himself started searching Wu Daozi all over the kingdom. Throughout the kingdom, people were searching Wu Daozi and his painting and his drawing, and nobody can found Wu Daozi along with his painting. Even the king could not find Wu Daozi. The emperor was astonished. He was surprised. He was just, you know, all of a sudden what happened? He was just surprised altogether. Before he could move or speak a word, the painting had vanished. Before he can say something, the painting got vanished. Altogether he was just still, and he cannot do nothing, you know, he cannot do something. So the painting had vanished from the wall. Not a sign of Wu Daozi's brush was left. Even not a single symbol of Wu Daozi was there. Even not his brush were there. Everything went along with him. So can you believe that in that sense there was a spirit in that cave? It is a question of trust. The artist was never seen again. So if he has not gone in that cave, in that picture, so where he is, where people could not found him, so there should be some realistic according to Nathalie. This was his last painting. This was Wu Daozi's last painting. So this was the first story regarding Chinese civilization, Chinese culture. Now let us have the next story. Take another famous Chinese story. This is also a Chinese story about a painter. He would not draw the eye of a dragon he had painted. So this is the eye of a dragon. He has not drawn that. According to Chinese painter, this is a second story. He thought that if he will draw the eyes of the dragon will fly away from the painting. This was his scenario, this was his thought of mind. He feared that it would fly out of the painting. It would means the dragon himself. Such stories played an important part in China's traditional education. The books of Confucius and Zhuangzi are full of them. Two books, two writers, those who are writing for the children. Basically, if we talk about, the first one is Confucius and the second is Zhuangzi. Both of them used to write this type of story. Basically, what type of story, students, I'm talking about? Children of China of the pre-primary education or elementary education, if you talk about, they used to read this type of story, famous cartoonists, famous painters, and what they do, they analyze this story in their own way, that this is realistic, this was real in the sense. So they are superstitious in that context. If you see, we Indians are also very superstitious. So you can imagine that Asia was very superstitious at that time, and nowadays also many peoples are there who believe in superstition. Now this was these story, the two stories, one of Wu Daozi and the second one of this painter who had drawn a dragon basically, and he didn't draw the eyes of the dragon. Let us have some European civilization story as well. In 15th century, Antwerp, a skilled blacksmith named Quentin Matsys. Quentin was a blacksmith. Blacksmith means lohar, as you can understand in Hindi. Fell in love with a painter's daughter, because this story is dedicated to the painters. Landscape means what? A drawing, a picture which is related to, associated with nature, nature's beauty. If you draw a landscape, there must be some sceneries of nature as well. So the father of the girl would not accept a son-in-law in such a profession, because his father was a painter, that daughter's father was painter, basically that girl's father was painter, and his lover was a blacksmith. So his father was not ready to accept that relation. So one day Quentin went into the painter's studio secretly. He painted a fly on the master's latest painting. It was painted with delicate realism. The painter took it for a real one. He tried to hit it away. Everything is fair in love and war. It is clearly said by someone, and it is true. Why it is true? Because Quentin, being a blacksmith, when he found that his father-in-law is not accepting the relation, what he did? He went into his painting studio secretly. He was not there. So Quentin went inside, and what he did, he made an history. He made a history. He set an example for that. And what he did, children, he just take out the brush and he started painting. He was having that talent of painter inside him, within him. So he painted a fly, एक मक्खी पेंट किया उसने, and it was painted with so delicacy, it was looking so genuine, it was looking so real, that even the painter, father of that girl, could not understood that this fly is a real one or it is artificial. When he went inside into his painting room, he saw that fly. He thought that this is a real fly. So he started just, he tried to hit it away, because he thought that a fly is sitting on his paper. So what he thought? He thought to hit that fly, and when he hit it, he found that this is artificial painting, an artificial painting, an artificial fly. Who has drawn this? He was so glad. And when he found that Quentin has that ability of painting, this is a fly, as you can see on the screen, and Quentin had drawn it so real, in a real way, that even the real painter could not understood that it is a artificial painting. So he accepted Quentin as a son-in-law. So he accepted Quentin as a son-in-law. So the above stories from China and Europe illustrate something. Chinese story illustrates superstitions, superstitious, and European story illustrate pragmatism, practical way how you can draw something. So I think you understood both the story from China and Europe. Now in the next video I'm going to explain you more about this chapter, the relationship between European and Chinese civilization. I am going to explain you, and then finally the civilization of India. Basically, if we talk about the Nek Chand rock garden is there in Chandigarh, we will talk about that also. Thank you so much for watching me, for hearing me. Thanks a lot.